And in that sense, we can truly say that this brand belongs to the people of the rivers. Please, can we have the video?
Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area. The dream to share this magical place with the world and to show that we can lead the way in conservation and tourism, benefiting today's generation and generations to come. The collective of our current generation, passionate about conservation, tourism and community, recognize that to share this idea with the world, to give attention and opportunity to the area, they would need an invitation. And this invitation should take the form of the most powerful tool in marketing, a brand. They have rightfully acknowledged that this great expanse, led by mighty rivers, has a generous offer to make to discerning tourists, places, people, and activities in the kind of abundance and diversity that is found in nowhere else. And at the center of this great story are the mighty rivers themselves: Kavango, Zambezi, Tsogwane, we call them rivers of life. This is captured in the brand's positioning statement. The rivers of life, where 5 visionary nations have come together to care for a vast Transfrontier conservation area, rich in natural and cultural diversity, to share with all who love wildlife without borders. The brand pays homage to the visionary initiative of the 5 founding nations. It's a tribute to the vastness of the largest terrestrial Transfrontier conservation area in the world. Describes attractions and experiences as a balance of nature and culture. Emphasizes the Transfrontier nature of the area and differentiates the area from other safari destinations by emphasizing water-based experiences. The promise of these rivers of life establishes a firm foundation from which to pursue our purpose of using tourism as a source of economic benefit to both conservation and communities. The Rivers of Life concept is expressed visually by a new logo, descriptive, distinctive, and artful. The elephant, a gentle giant that thrives in community, is iconic to our area because we have the greatest number of elephants in the world. Our mighty rivers that nurture this great diversity of life. And then, our sunrises and sunsets, eternal and limitless, and a reminder of the hope that dawns with each new day. This new brand, this precious story waiting to be shared, is the product of the people here. Those with the wisdom that comes from hearing the rivers rush, the ingenuity to go deep down in dry places to find precious water, from living in this unique place on earth, from smelling the freedom of the wilderness on the breeze. It belongs to the people of the Kavango Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area. And now is the time to share it. Kavango Zambezi, Rivers of Life.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nyambe and Johnny Johnson, for that presentation on the Kaza TFCA. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now hand over to my co-master of ceremonies, Pastor Basta Mukuni Tembo. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to take us into the next session.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the host President, may I also acknowledge Their Excellencies, the President of Angola, Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. Allow me, Your Excellencies, to acknowledge the presence of His Royal Highness Munokalia Mukuni of the Leya people of Mukuni village in Kazungula district. Your Royal Highness, you're most welcome. As Paddy has said, we are here for this special reason of Kaza TFCAs, and at this moment we are going to have the launch of the bridged vision of the Kaza tourism destination. May I make welcome the presentation. All right, I beg your pardon. We were supposed to have had a health break, but may we have remarks on the importance of the Transfrontier conservation areas in the SADC region, and this will be done by His Excellency Elias Magoti, SADC Executive Secretary. A big hand for him as he comes.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. Your Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia and the Chairperson of the Kavango Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area. Your Excellency, Dr. Emerson Dambuzo Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, the President of the Republic of Namibia, Your Honor, Mr. Slumber Tsogwane, the Vice President of the Republic of Botswana, Honorable Mr. Mashud Jizu Lopez, Minister of Tourism of the Republic, and staff from the Government of Zambia, distinguished delegate, the media. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning once more. And all other protocols are observed if I have missed others. Your Excellencies, it is with immense gratitude and a profound privilege for me to deliver this at this first ever regional cooperation and integration, which is clearly demonstrated in the Kaza TFCA, is informed by the SADC Treaty adopted in 1992, which has identified natural resources and environment as one of the critical areas of cooperation or for cooperation, given the abundant natural capital that the region possesses. It is also informed by the SADC Protocol on wildlife conservation and law enforcement, whose objectives include promoting conservation of shared wildlife resources through the establishment of transfrontier conservation areas. The regional cooperation and integration is further informed by the Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan 2020-2030, or RSDP for short, with the objective to develop SADC into a functional and integrated network of TFCAs, led obviously by Kaza, which has brought us together here today. It advocates for the shared natural resources that are sustainably co-managed and conserved to foster the socio-economic development for the benefit of the people living within and around the TFCAs, the entire SADC region, and the world at large. In a bid to further support adequate implementation of the TFCA program, as was mentioned earlier, and guided by the Protocol on Wildlife, SADC member states have approved several strategies, among them a few which I'll highlight. The first is the SADC Law Enforcement and Anti-Poaching Strategy of 2022 to 2030, which envisions a substantial reduction in wildlife crime by the year 2032, emphasizing professionalization of protected areas, sustainable resource use, and regional collaboration. We will hear consistent collaboration and regional integration, as was presented as well by Dr. Nyambe earlier. The second is wildlife-based economy strategy framework that intertwines economic prosperity with wildlife preservation, focusing on globally competitive wildlife-based value chains and inclusive socioeconomic development. The third, the SADC CITES engagement strategy of 2022 to 26, and the multilateral environmental agreement guidelines, both of which advocate for sustainable resource use, rural livelihood improvement, and a coordinated regional engagement and at international wildlife trade forums. And lastly, the SADC forestry strategy, which aims to increase member states' capacity to sustainably manage and use both national and transboundary forest resources to enable economic development and support ecosystem services for our region. Your Excellencies, we should applaud, in my view, the Republic of Zambia under the leadership of His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema and the Kaza TFCA Secretariat for convening this summit, which embodies the collective dream, as he mentioned, pursued by the 5 countries, namely Botswana, Angola, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. The bold and deliberate step to sign this treaty, or the SADC treaty, in 2011, which is 13 years ago, has not only enabled these countries to share borders and natural resources, it has also established the largest land-based TFCA in the world. And this is why I think we are gathered here, covering approximately, spoke about 522, or approximately 520 square kilometers, creating a wetland paradise straddling all these countries and home to approximately 2.6 inhabitants, 2.6 million inhabitants. The goal of the Kaza TFCA is to sustainably manage all its ecosystems and cultural components. This to ensure a long-term viability and diversity of its natural and cultural resources, whilst generating the attendant socio-economic benefits to improve and secure the livelihoods of communities within the ecoregion. Your Excellencies, this summit is an important milestone in its history and embodies a success story, in my view, in wildlife conservation, not only in this specific landscape, but also in the entire Southern African region, and I believe the world as well. From a total of 7 million square kilometers making up Southern Africa, around 1.9 or close to 2 million square kilometers, or 27% of the total area, is protected. 2 million square kilometers. Just think of that. Of this, 1 million square kilometers, or 83% of this protected area, is part of the TFCAs. Kaza alone accounts for about 60% of this total area of the TFCAs in our region. The above stats exemplify the criticality and the leading role this specific TFCA has on regional conservation efforts, with impact within the region and beyond. With its elephant population estimated at around 227,900, as per the recent survey of 2022, Kaza holds more than 50% of the global savanna elephant population, which is stable but still growing. From a conservation standpoint, this shows that Kaza has done very well throughout the years. It is a success story, a benchmark that should be emulated by others less successful, and should attract more and targeted resources to sustain and preserve it, and should be appropriately branded and marketed, as was just highlighted earlier on. This notwithstanding, Your Excellencies, there is a downside to it. 57.9% of these elephants reside in Botswana, and 28.7% of them are found in Zimbabwe. They have unfortunately caused habitat degradation in these two countries and continue unabated to this day, endangering the existence of other wildlife species. They have heightened human-wildlife conflict, going into villages and farmlands, destroying property and crops, and continue to kill our people. It is in my view that all stakeholders, when we engage on matters of elephants, the story should be balanced between human and wildlife. There are two stakeholders here, not just one, which is wildlife. There are people that reside in this. The increased wildlife trade restrictions at the international market and at CITES penalize and undermine Kaza's success in conserving its wildlife and protecting its human population, thereby depriving this region of the critical revenue for sustainable wildlife conservation and enhanced livelihoods for our local communities. Our key message to the world today during this summit is that we must all find workable solutions for all affected, not just wildlife only. We must promote innovative and sustainable wildlife-based value chains to optimize the use of wildlife resources for improved livelihood of SADC citizens and to contribute to socio-economic development. SADC remains committed to facilitating this mission through the SADC CITES engagement strategy. We applaud efforts by the Kaza member states in advocating for the lifting of proposed trade bans, which are having serious unintended consequences on wildlife conservation, rural livelihoods, and socio-economic development of our region. As we approach the 20th CITES Conference of the Parties, or COP20 for short, it is critical that we reflect deeply on past experiences and failures, learn from them, and explore different channels, including diplomatic channels, to defend the interests of the SADC region and our communities. This should include identifying alternative options for trading our wildlife products, especially where, in my view, reason and objectivity are embraced and not just the often exhibited rigidity and inflexibility by some of our stakeholders. The Kaza contribution Yes, Kaza's contribution to the regional, continental, and global sustainable development is not only through the UN Convention on Biological Diversity being operationalized by the SADC Regional Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, but also the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, where COP28 clearly recognized the need to link efforts to address climate and biodiversity crisis to limit global temperature rise within the 1.5 degrees mark. In addition, Kaza contributes to the United Nations Convention to combat desertification, or UNCCD, by addressing enhanced drought resilience, reduced land degradation, and investment in restoration efforts, and the Convention on Migratory Species by facilitating the free movement of wildlife throughout their natural range. Your Excellencies, Kaza must be an important regional asset, and I think it has been highlighted there, for sustainable social and economic development by transforming it into a premier tourism destination. The pilot Kaza Univisa, implemented from 2016 to date, has been successful, and we must commend the two member states, Zambia and Zimbabwe, for taking the lead in this regard. It has produced a total of around 29,000 and 179,000 issued visas by the two countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, respectively. This instrument, therefore, should be expanded to all Kaza member states. Time is now. It works. Let's use it. This should further strengthen the tourism development and maximize social and economic benefits for our region, as well as enhance sustainable conservation of wildlife. We express our profound gratitude to the Kaza heads of state for the exemplary leadership in protecting the Kaza area, sacrificing resources that should be channeled to other development imperatives. We also extend our gratitude to the German government for the fruitful cooperation for all the years we've partnered. For almost 25 years now, the Germans have taken both SADC Secretariat and member states as strategic partners, investing significant resources in SADC TFCAs and mainly in this Kaza area. Since 2009, Euro 44.5 million has been invested in the region's TFCAs. Additionally, the SADC Secretariat has just signed a financing agreement with the European Union for 33 million euros through the Nature Africa initiative. We urge other ICP partners to join in this very long and demanding and expensive journey to better conserve our natural resources with tangible, positive impacts to our citizens living within and around the TFCAs. As I conclude, allow me to once more congratulate His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of Zambia, our host, for convening this summit. I wish you, Your Excellencies, fruitful deliberations. I thank you for attention. Zikomo kwambile, muito obrigada, merci beaucoup, asante sana. Yalewa.
Thank you so very much. That is His Excellency Elias Magotsi, SADC Executive Secretary. We can give him another hand. Allow me at this point in time to invite a presentation of the issue paper by the Minister of Tourism, who is also Chairperson Kaza TFCA Ministerial Committee, Honorable Rodney Sikumba, Member of Parliament for this great city's constituency, Livingstone, where we are being hosted, the cleanest city in the nation since 2013.
Good morning, Your Excellencies. I must just want to do a disclaimer that I had nothing to do with that statement that was made, but I like it and I'll take it as my own. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, if you could allow me to recognize the presence of our host, His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the President of the Republic of Zambia, who is playing host as well as chair for the Kaza TFCA. Allow me, Your Excellencies, to also recognize the presence of the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa. You are very welcome. Allow me also to recognize the presence of His Excellency, Nangolo Mbumba, President of the Republic of Namibia. In the same breath, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend my welcome to Zona, the Vice President of the Republic of Botswana, Mr. Slumber Tsogwane. Also extend welcome to my colleague, Minister of Tourism of the Republic of Angola, Marcio Daniel, representing His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Angola. I also want to extend my work in the Kaza region, and Your Excellencies, I must make mention that this particular section is called the issues paper. But I think you choose your tourism ministers very well. And why I say so is because from the time that we've been deliberating, we've had no issues. We've been always just been doing consensus. We'd like to give you a round of applause on that one. I also extend welcome to other cabinet colleagues of mine, including those from other Kaza countries, the SADC Executive Secretary, who just spoke before me, Mr. Elias Magosi, and also His Royal Highness Chief Mukuni. You are very welcome. And with the brevity of time, allow me to use the protocols already established as my own. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a grueling 4 days, starting with a technical committee, doing a deep dive on what Kaza is and where we want to take Kaza. And Your Excellencies, I must indicate that this summit's theme could not have been picked right and also at a better time. And I quote, leveraging Kaza's natural capital and cultural heritage resource as catalysts for inclusive socio-economic development of the eco-region, end quote. This, Your Excellencies, has come at a time where within the SADC region, we're faced with the worst drought ever, which has affected a number of our countries. And we saw our leaders not so long ago convening a meeting through the SADC chairman, the President of Angola, to discuss ways and means on how we could mitigate or ameliorate the challenges that our citizens are going through. And I did indicate to my colleagues, Your Excellencies, that at this particular time, that the drought has brought issues pertaining to energy deficiency, issues to looking at our crop, which is obviously dying, and more so, the very fact that our waters are drying up. It therefore left our ministry, the Ministries of Tourism, Wildlife, and that of Environment, to see ways and means on how we could mitigate this particular challenge. And indeed, Your Excellencies, we eventually sat down to discuss, among other issues, 6 or is it 7 thematic areas that will speak to what we as Kaza are going to contribute to making sure that we support and conserve this biodiversity that we would like to call as life. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this particular summit was coined as far back as 2019. And in 2019 itself, there were 2 specific instructions that were given by the heads of state. Number 1 was for us to ascertain the habitat population within our region. And that in itself spoke to the elephants. And indeed, this particular city was host of the presentation of the Elephant Aerial Survey, which took place here in Livingstone in 2023, August 31st, 2023, where we ascertained the number of elephants to be at 227,900 within the Kaza region. Executive Secretary for SADC did allude to that, and we all know that we are home to 50% of the African savanna elephant. One other particular issue, Your Excellencies, obviously was the issue of having to host this summit. Now, the 6 areas that we're looking at were issues to do with natural resource management, community livelihood improvement, land use planning, infrastructure and economic development, tourism development, as well as other cross-cutting issues. And I will take time, just a little bit, Your Excellencies, with your indulgence, just look at the natural resource management, which is obviously broken down in 3. That is wildlife, forestry, as well as freshwater. Your Excellencies, you may wish to note that obviously through the directive, we did the Kasane Elephant Summit of 2019 synchronized a Kaza Elephant Survey, and it was conducted, as I mentioned, which ascertained the population of 227,900. Further, Your Excellencies, we do realize that the increase of the elephant population in the Kaza meant an increase of the ivory stockpile in each of our partner states, which unfortunately cannot be traded internationally under the CITES Convention. That, Your Excellencies, the Executive Director for SADC belabored on that point, and I wish not to go into that aspect until we get to the decision. And we also want to indicate that due to the challenges that we're facing with CITES, we want you to take note that the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species, CITES as they call it, as a forum, no longer represents or reflects the realities of the Southern Africa in general and to Kaza, and in particular the decisions of this forum are negatively impacting the conservation sustainability within the region. Your Excellencies, I'll draw you to forestry. Excellencies, we invite you to note that the challenges facing Kaza's forests and related resources require increased efforts towards achieving sustainable and collaborative management. Further, we note that the development of carbon trading as an art of climate change mitigation and mitigation requires a unified approach in the Kaza region. This is a discussion that we belabored with my colleague ministers, and I believe that you, the heads of state, are actually agreeable with the aspect that carbon trading in Zambia should be similar to that in Botswana, Angola, Zimbabwe, Namibia, across the Kaza states. Your Excellencies, I bring you to matters to do with fresh water. Your Excellencies, you may wish to note that Kaza's interconnected river systems and the associated wetland ecosystems and resources are the lifeblood of the Kaza and the key of the ecological-based adaptation and growing vulnerability as a region to climate impacts. Your Excellencies, I'm glad to inform you that we have taken note of that, and we have asked our Kaza Secretariat to engage the 2 river basin organizations, that is the Kavango Water Commission, popularly known as OCACOM, as well as the Zambezi Water Commission, ZAMCOM, to harmonize approaches to water and wildlife resources. Now, Your Excellencies, as the ministers in charge of environment, tourism, and wildlife, we wish to recommend the following on natural resource management. Number 1 is to expedite the operationalization of the SADC CITES Engagement Strategy Survey 2022 to 2026 to better defend the conservation, sustainable use, and socio-economic development interests in the region at the upcoming CITES meeting. Further, Your Excellencies, we will consider options available within and outside CITES, including diplomatic engagement, withdrawal, reservations, arbitrations, and trading with non-CITES parties as a way to benefit from wildlife and wildlife products. In this particular aspect, we're talking about sustainable utilization of wildlife. Furthermore, Your Excellencies, to fully prepare and participate for the upcoming Elephant Dialogue meeting planned for August 2024 in Botswana, including the holding of at least 2 preparatory meetings to develop a regional common position on CITES, or rather COP20, which will be held in Geneva 2025, and also to consider the harmonization of wildlife model within the Kaza region. Your Excellencies, allow me to now go into the aspects of community livelihoods, which we all believe that whatever we're doing within our different landscape speaks to the community. Your Excellencies, would like to invite you to note that the human-wildlife conflict remains an issue of high concern as incidents continue to rise at the human-wildlife interface. I did hear Executive Director talking about the aspects of how the large numbers of the elephants within Botswana as well as Zimbabwe have impacted on biodiversity, where we have enough human-wildlife conflict. And further, Your Excellency, we're also talking about, for you to note that the commodity-based trade of beef approach in the production to allow farmers in places deemed to be food and mouth disease infected zones to access new markets after traditionally being excluded from the global beef market. This, Your Excellencies, I know is very close to your hearts, and I think it's very, very important that we look into it. And Excellencies, decisions that we're bringing to you for your recommendations are to expedite the approval of the Kaza TFCA Livelihood Diversification Strategy and Climate Change Livelihood Focused Risk Assessment Strategy. Further, Your Excellencies, is to implement the SADC guidelines on the commodity-based trade of beef from the foot and mouth disease areas to support improved livestock husbandry practices, herd for health, rangeland restoration, and enable farmers to access the beef market. Your Excellencies, I just want to bring it to your attention that a few state parties that have actually gotten onto the community-based natural resource up to legislation level is that of Namibia and that of Zimbabwe, and we've actually looked at how best we could be, we can get lessons from the best in class in these particular aspects. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'll now draw your attention to the aspects of the land use planning. Excellencies, we invite you to note that the application of the CBT for beef approaches in the region, along with the herding for health model, provide an opportunity to reconsider need for extensive fence-based control measures for animal disease management and has implications for the vision of habitat connectivity at landscape scale. And I know for a fact, like from Zambia's side, our Minister of Fisheries and Livestock has been very instrumental in seeing ways and means on how we could create these particular corridors, which we strongly feel can be extended within the region so that we get to ring-fence not only our wildlife, but our livestock as well. Your Excellencies, the decisions that are coming for recommendation to yourselves is to promote the cross-sectional integrated land use planning for ease of coordination of development within the region. Further, Your Excellencies, we recommend that we implement the policy brief recommendation as per approved elephant movement policy brief that is of October 2022 Ministers Committee. And last but not least, the embedded conservation connectivity in the development and area management plans. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'll draw your attention to the fourth thematic item, which is the infrastructure and economic development. Your Excellencies, you may wish to note that the natural capital values for the Kaza landscape needs to be better assessed and documented in order to inform policies and plans to facilitate for decision-making. And you may wish to also note that the inclusivity is required to realize socio-economic development goals and the green growth opportunity. And we have been hearing from the presentation, Your Excellencies, where we're talking about the Kaza Uni visa, which I'll probably delve in at some point, and also the aspects of us to free roam within the 5 particular countries, similar to the way the elephants roam in these particular countries. I am very delighted, Your Excellencies, that some countries within the Kaza region, such as Botswana and Namibia, have already implemented the aspect of having to visit their countries using their national IDs. We congratulate you for that. And we strongly encourage that we extend that particular facility to other countries within SADC. I've always said it, and I'll say it again, Your Excellencies, there's no better person to market Kaza than the Kaza residents themselves. So we start from ourselves, and then we go out there within the continent. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on the decisions for recommendation by you, Your Excellencies, is to assess the current trends and associated risks and opportunities in the landscapes using the sound scientific methodology. Further, Your Excellencies, to investigate potential pathways of green growth within the Kaza, including, but not limited to, sharing experiences and case studies from other regions. Your Excellencies, what is key also for infrastructure development is to ensure that the process for updating each country's IDPs, integrated development plans, and master IDPs is a robust and inclusive one, so that the IDPs are reflected in the regional authority development plans. This in itself will be able to now create connectivity within our 5 countries. We all know the challenges that we're faced with in terms of road access. We all know the challenges that we're faced with air access, and that's, for me and my colleague ministers, is what I strongly feel we need to look into. And also to establish a natural capital account in partner states, of which some of us have not done it, but I think it's very, very important that we actually get to do it. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'll draw to your attention to thematic item number 5, which is tourism development. Your Excellencies, you may have heard from the ED, we did pilot the Kaza Uni visa between Zambia and Zimbabwe. It's gone through, and now it's operational. It's actually part of the border integrated systems. And I want to indicate from the records that we got, a total of 208,058 Kaza Uni visas have since been issued between the 2 countries since 2016. I think we need to give ourselves a round of applause on that one. And because of that, Your Excellencies, we have further on, from what you saw, decided to launch the Kaza destination brand today or yesterday, which obviously will go a long way into promoting the single destination marketing for the Kaza region. And I've said it to my colleagues, and they agree with me very, very well, that the time to compete is long gone. We should only but complement each other. And that is the only way that we can grow as one Africa. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the decisions that we're bringing to you, Your Excellencies, for the recommendations rather, is to consider to allow our colleagues, that is of Botswana, Angola, and Namibia, to immediately implement the Kaza Uni visa system. Further, Your Excellencies, we recommend also that each member state within the Kaza region implements the Kaza destination brand, which we saw being shown today, and also to establish mechanism for engagement of communities in the tourism value chain that need to be reviewed to enable improved financial and non-financial benefits from the industry. Last but not least, Your Excellencies, to enhance connectivity across Kaza through direct flights, efficient border management system, road and air infrastructure. This, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very critical. If Kaza scores on this particular aspect, I don't think any other tourist would go to any other region but the Kaza region. We want to ensure that air access is available, road access is available, as well as border facilitation. We, amongst ourselves, are a stone throw away. There's no reason why it should take you hours on end to actually reach each of our countries. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on the matter of cross-cutting issues, Your Excellencies are invited to note that the ongoing work related to the wildlife economy, bankable nature solutions, and sustainable finance solutions, offering a toolbox for options that can be applied and scaled across the Kaza landscapes. And what we brought, decisions that we brought for your recommendations, Your Excellencies, is obviously to endorse the exchange visit by partner states, lead ministries, to learn on how each model has worked, obviously, in our lead country, Namibia, and that could be applied to other partner states. Also to create opportunities to sharing lessons learned as case studies in areas of wildlife economy, bankable finance solutions, as well as sustainable finance solutions. This, Your Excellencies, we have agreed unanimously as ministers that Kaza needs to be sustainable. At some point, the resources that we have within our landscape need to sustain their operations. And that is the reason why we are going to be having serious discussions among ourselves with our technocrats to see how best we could give ourselves a yardstick, the date when we will know that this particular region becomes sustainable. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to just draw you to the last item, obviously, which borders on this particular summit, as well as the secretariat that actually pulled all these things together. I think it's very important, Your Excellencies, for us to bring it to your attention and to also note the role, the effective role that the secretariat has had over a period of time, the program of work, which obviously requires a lot of resources, as it were. And I think in the aspect of having to strengthen the Kaza Secretariat, which we know is supported by our colleagues from the SADC Secretariat, is a way on how we could jointly mobilize financial resources for the construction of the Kaza Secretariat office in Kasane. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take note of the fact that Botswana was gracious enough to spare a piece of land that we will, as Kaza, be building our secretariat as soon as funds are made readily available. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we're talking about creating the opportunities for sharing lessons learned and case studies in areas of wildlife economy, bankable finance solutions, and sustainability. What the Executive Director mentioned much earlier could not have been said any better. We should be able to start looking inwards to see what kind of resources that we have. We did our elephant survey, but we are also proposing that we extend the survey to other species, which obviously are being discussed under the CITES rules. Here we're talking about the elephants themselves, the cats, the hippos, the giraffes, and many others, so that we actually have that particular number, scientifically proven that this is the habitat that actually sits in this particular aspect. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I just want to put comfort in yourselves that all these matters that I have raised are being checklisted and will be followed upon each and every of us, the ministers, to ensure that we continuously update you on the issues raised and obviously based on the solutions and resolutions that would require your specific interventions at various forums within Cabinet itself or indeed in Parliament. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite our host president, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to come and make his keynote address. Mr. President, may we all be upstanding.
You may take your seats, please. Thank you very much. I'm Kale. Thank you very much. Let me recognize my dear colleagues, President Mnangagwa, Zimbabwe, President Nangolo Mbumba, Namibia, Vice President Slumber, Tsogwane, Botswana, Tumerara. Let me recognize our minister from Angola, minister representing President Lorenzo Bondier. Let me also recognize the SADC Executive Secretary, who spoke very well earlier in the day. Let me recognize the Minister of Tourism here and your colleagues from the Kaza states and other ministers that are present today, provincial minister, and probably from not only Southern Province, but other provinces in our country, and from our Kaza states and elsewhere. Let me give due recognition to the German ambassador and her team. You know why, for the tremendous work that they've been doing with us over the years around the Kaza issues, but also other cooperating partners, ambassadors, high commissioners accredited to our country, and probably to other Kaza states that may be present here. And His Royal Highness Mnokaria Mukuni, who is the host chief in this beautiful place, and your colleagues that may be present, other chiefs, Mayor of Livingstone, and your colleagues from other areas, government officials from our Kaza states, not just Zambia, from our Kaza states. Indeed, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by really welcoming you here, my dear colleagues, their excellencies, heads of government and heads of state and government, so to say, and their representatives, and all of you distinguished guests or participants to this Heads of State Summit on the Kavango, Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area, in short, Kaza. We're very delighted, especially those that are coming from outside Zambia, to host you here. And you're truly welcome to Livingstone. Welcome to Zambia. We are only hosts, but by definition of recent history. But this is actually your home. Before colleagues sat in Berlin to draw our boundaries, which is one people, completely one people. So you are home here. President Bumba was saying when one of the co-masters of ceremony says, Mwatambulu, he says, well, but that's my language, similar to my language, because we're one, truly one. So feel at home, because this is your home. Let me just make a mention, special mention of this location, which we argue with my big brother there, President Mnangagwa, that who has the best site of this force. Again, excellent location, a rare gem in the world, which most of us citizens of Kaza don't even appreciate. We're not conscious of how excellent this location is. God's creation, fantabulous place, one of the 7 wonders of the world, and wrongly described, if the British are here, that it was discovered by David Livingstone. No. David Livingstone was taken by the local people. So he was asking, what was that strange noise here? And the local people gave him the local names. Shungu na Mtitima, Musio Tunya. I'm sure from the other side, their names. He was taken there because he had never seen anything like this in his life. But the history then was that he discovered the Victoria Falls and gave it a name of the Queen of England at the time. That's okay. But honestly speaking, it's a wonderful place. And we in Zambia, Zimbabwe, have stopped the debate of who has the best view, because the views are best from all sides. Have you looked at the views from the air? Fantastic. And then you go on to Kasane, Kazungula, because this is one general area. Look at the beauty there. A rare situation where 4 countries, if I'm not wrong, share a border. This piece of asset, this Kaza region, must look at it properly. Extend the extension to the fully blown area into the 5 countries, Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia. It couldn't have been brought together any better than this Kaza initiative. So let us develop it. Let us realize its full potential. As I join the other speakers that have spoken already, I really think that we must be consciously saying to ourselves, how can we extract the best out of this asset in the most sustainable way? I'm talking of Kaza now. It is an asset that we need to manage properly. So truly, to be host to this summit, we appreciate and acknowledge the graciousness of the other member states, the presidents that are here and their representatives, and the teams that have been working for many years on this asset, Kaza asset. It is also important for me to express our gratitude to our traditional leaders at this early stage of my submission, the host chiefs here and across, the chiefs in the 5 countries. And again, President Mbumba reminded me that it's the correct thing to thank our traditional leaders, our peoples, for looking after these assets, long before Kaza was even, if you like, thought about. These assets in these 5 countries have been looked after in a sustainable way. Our forefathers and mothers were never destructive in the exploitation of resources. They lived with elephants. They didn't build homes in the elephant routes until we came along, we who were a bit greedy and wanted to build everywhere and still expected elephants to maintain their memory, large memories of trekking using particular routes. If you look at this river, there's only certain places you see elephants crossing. Once in a while you see them crossing in a rare place, but generally they have a place they cross. Where you're seated here, if you're going into town in Livingston, there's only one point you must be careful about. That's the point they cross for centuries. So Kaza is such a wonderful idea to open up these routes for humanity and the creatures that lived in a harmonious way with us over the centuries. So let's build that in as we manage Kaza. Ministers of Tourism, Environment, Green Economies, let's take that into account. Let's learn from that heritage and build on it. That's one of my own suggestions that I'm making, and I'm sure my colleagues, heads of state, agree with me. We, the 5 countries, have had a long relationship with each other. As I said, historically, culturally, similar dances, similar music, language, genetic material. We have shared a lot of genetic material over the years. I'm talking about cross marriages, and even in the olden days again, chiefs would send emissaries to look for wives across in the Tapa Kingdom, onto the valley, on the Zambian side. And you shouldn't be surprised that, chiefs here, where we are seated, chiefs here and across in Zimbabwe speak the same language, and they have nephews, cousins living across. So is the case in Botswana, so is the case in Namibia, so is the case with Angola. So the point I'm making is that now we have formal diplomatic relations, we call it, but they were actually there. These diplomatic relationships were there, and they endured. Again, I'm saying let's build around the culture. Remember, nature, natural resources, human, animal, trees, water, others are intertwined. And when you talk about culture, it's actually embedded in these assets. Even the names, the descriptions of these things. So I am saying that this summit is so vitally important, building on our heritage and our relationships which were formalized, and the friendships that we share amongst ourselves will make it easier for us to take Kaza where it should be. We've actually been a bit slow. We've been slow. Let's accelerate now that growth around Kaza as the nucleus of what we do with each other. I must also say that it is important that conservation and our legacies, our heritage, are also viewed from the point of view of coexistence, natural selection issues, and I'm touching on what the Executive Secretary mentioned. We cattlemen, and again, these 5 countries, somewhat, we're all cattlemen in these 5 countries. We cattlemen cow our cattle. Sometimes we have a troublesome animal, and you take it out. When you take it out, you don't bury it. The meat is eaten. The horns are used for musical instruments and other applications. How is it that we would not be in a position to cull our wildlife? Sometimes we cull trees, that's true, when we want to make products out of trees. How is it that we leave out the culling, the trading, responsible, sustainable trading of what Kaza is all about? And so, if we cull an old elephant bull that decides to only eat maize, so what do we do when we cull it? We burn it, its skin, its bones, its tusks. I think that's a question that was being raised here. There will be trade associated with culling, associated with natural selection, associated with other things. I think it's important that all of us in Kaza and our partners, respecting that irresponsible harvesting could lead to destruction and lack of sustainability. That's very important that we must consider those aspects. You can't have one without the other. It's not possible. Let me return to us cattlemen. We also cow barren animals. Actually, we cow. Amongst the male calves, we say, this one will go for something else. This one will go for breeding. It's just the way life is. So I don't want to invoke extremism in this debate. I want to invoke realism. I want to invoke sustainability concepts. Even just numbers, sheer numbers. How do you sustain the numbers if you don't do certain things that are of an intrusive nature, but positive intrusion? I say so, yet I'm the one who believes that rampant, uncontrolled poaching, as an example, should never, ever be allowed in an environment, in an area like the one we've set up. I think I've beaten the point hard enough. So we leave it to the experts in our area, Kaza area, other partners we have who have been with us, global issues, what other challenges may come along. Let us bring all of this to the table. So, SADC, Executive Secretary, you're not alone. In fact, there are many who are responsible. We are many who are responsible enough. It's like criminality in a human community. What do you do when you perpetuate criminals in the community? Our old societies had a way of dealing with them. The modern societies still have ways of dealing with them. Point is made. Leadership. Let me not forget this point. Kaza must entrench the issue of responsiveness, the issue around sustainability. These assets don't belong to our life now. If that were the case, we would have never found them. Because if they had belonged to the generation before us, they would have been probably gone. So it's our duty to take care of these assets in totality, to pass them on to those coming after us, including those who are not yet born. I think it's a noble duty to do that. Let me talk about leadership. You made your 5, 6 points, 7 points, how many? Minister of Tourism, representing your colleagues. We listen to you. We listen to you. You are making recommendations to us. We will provide the leadership. We will provide the leadership to make the decisions that are necessary so we can achieve the Kaza objectives, the broader ones as well, and those that are being suggested through various messages coming through the people speaking here, so that we can have a functional Kaza, one which is clear. And I saw the Secretariat articulated the areas, focal areas. And I think it's important that we, the leaders here, my brothers and colleagues that are here, confirm publicly that we are here to make decisions. Bring the decisions for us to make. We'll make them. We'll make them. I talked about culture, diversity, yet one, unity in diversity. I think these are non-issues. These are complementary issues. And I want to emphasize the point that I made it earlier. We celebrate our culture and our culture embedded in nature. That's true. So let us bring these assets together to create not just a conservation case, but also create a case for business, a case for investment. This diversity in the Kaza area, the endowment, one of the videos we watched, fantastic. You just watch that video, then you realize that if we put this story together properly, plus our culture issues and other factors, we will have an asset that we can package in a way that it will attract investments to address the issues of sustainability as we work with our cooperating partners, generating revenues ourselves to support the local communities that have been there before us. We want them to buy in the story of anti-poaching. They must see alternatives for their livelihoods. Food. alternatives for livelihoods in terms of energy, even water for human consumption. This drought has now shown us something, exposed us gravely. So we need to do certain things that would allow our communities to feel secure in terms of food, feel secure in terms of energy, feel secure in terms of business opportunities for their children as well. So I would like to suggest that we celebrate Kaza with responsibility, but with an order book. I use that term deliberately. Work ahead of us. We've come this far, but we have work ahead of us. A lot of work, and we don't have the time. The risks we run now are exacerbated by the climate change challenges that we've seen. So working together, I heard you, Minister, is an imperative, and not always to think of competition, but more complementarity. I was thanking the minister from Angola to go and thank President Lorenzo that because we had no rain in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, largely, and Namibia and other countries, let's say the Kaza countries, the only country that had a bit more rain of the 5 countries is Angola. And we can see a little bit more water, yes, it's lower levels, but a little bit more water coming through Lungwebungu from Angola, tributary into the Zambezi, from Luanginga, Lueti, for us, and I think there are other tributaries as well, trickling through a little bit more, and we must say thank you to the rain we had in Angola. That underscores the importance of working as one. Managing Kavango, all the waterheads there, in Angola, in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, which has usually lesser water, and Namibia, very, very important. And common standards become imperative, complementary standards. This hotel where you are seated 25 years ago, in fact 26 years ago, when the initiation came of building this hotel, it was a nightmare because of it being a World Heritage Site. Here and across, of course, it's one in Zimbabwe. And we who are building in Zambia and Zimbabwe have to obligate ourselves to global standards, such as 50-meter riverine belt. Although we need to produce food, we cannot be doing agriculture 50 meters into a river system or basin, because it destroys through erosion. It will create alluvial soils that are not necessary, and basically take out the depth of our river systems. And when that happens, the streams will dry faster. Those standards in the Kaza region must be checklisted properly, must be enshrined in our normal day-to-day work and life. Other things come in place. I'm only giving an example. So we have a bit more work to do. So at that point, all I can say as I close is say, we need to do more work. We appreciate the work that has been done, but we need to do more work. Investments for sustainability, responsible investments in the Kaza area to create job opportunities for our people. Again, the communities that are there. We do need to do that, ministers and the technical teams, to isolate a little bit more on the business issues, the economic issues, as for conservation and other factors. I'm grateful that we've already talked about the Univisa, Kaza Univisa rolled out. I think we must simply say this will happen. The presidents are here. This should happen. SADC Executive Secretary, because that's the way my brain was formed, I think we can have a little bit more added value. When this Kaza Univisa is working, why not roll it out in the SADC region? Is there a problem with that? What's the issue there? It will deliver the same benefits we intended to deliver in the 5 Kaza member states. So we could consider that. Because SADC doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. If it's done as part of the SADC protocols here, we must consider rolling it out, unless it creates additional challenges or harm. If it doesn't, let's optimize. Infrastructure has been touched on. I will not repeat that. I had it in my note. So, technology is all I can say. You mentioned border management systems and other things. But we, in other platforms, we met in Victoria Falls Town. Not long ago, President Mnangagwa was host to us when we were talking about ease of doing business, trade within the continent. And we cherish the issues around one-stop border post. I made a pronouncement in Victoria Falls Town. I'm sure others were present in that meeting when we sat there. And I said, why are we priding ourselves about one-stop border post? That will be out of date. It's already out of date. We should be talking about a non-stop border post. A non-stop border post. Because we must cut the cost of doing business and bureaucracy and opportunity for corruption. That's true. I know people don't want to say it. We must say these things. The truck doesn't have to stop here. Where I can walk to see President Mnangagwa if he's in Vic Falls, I can walk. So why should the truck be stopping here? It should just run through. Because technology allows us to scan the truck from the point of parking and track it along the way. Trucking companies do that. I have friends who are in trucking. They do that. Once they park in Beira, they know even when a driver stops somewhere to answer the call of nature, they are seeing the driver. That is true. So why should we have one-stop border posts? So non-stop border posts is the way to go. Technology allows us to do that. I know what we presidents and other leaders will be concerned about. We'll be concerned about security, smuggling, drugs, human trafficking. We can incorporate all of that. I think Kaza shouldn't work in isolation. Those things, Dr. Magosi, we're already dealing with them in other components of SADC. Again, because of technology. Security is important. Kaza should not be a source of bringing insecurity to member states, but Kaza should be part of the global efforts to fight crime, such as what I've already indicated, destroying our population, drugs, human trafficking. I don't know about our other Kaza countries. We in Zambia are having problems with human beings being trucked in fuel tankers, and some are dying. So if we don't pick it up in Zambia, they will end up in Zimbabwe. So we've acted irresponsibly here. They will end up in Botswana, and vice versa, except that most trafficking actually is, unfortunately, is north to us in the south, Horn of Africa. Not to embarrass anybody. It's a serious problem. But we can deal with it through technology. So it's not the reason why we can avoid lowering the cost of doing business amongst our Kaza countries. I must mention, you did mention about legal reforms. I want to add legal regulatory as well. I think we can harmonize those. Very important that we do it quickly. We don't have to waste time. I must be emphatic here. If I didn't say it, I would lose an opportunity. Carbon trading. I think you mildly mentioned that. Carbon trading. We don't want to structure carbon trading in a way that leaves value on the table and that value goes elsewhere. That value must stay in the Kaza region, the carbon trading. COP28 in Dubai, we defined some of the things that must be built into what we're discussing here. 3 elements. What's the market? What is this animal called the carbon market? You can't trade in something you don't understand. Let's define it properly. As we already discussed at COP28, Kaza must adopt the resolutions of 3 points that we raised there. 1, definition of the carbon market. 2, the pricing. The pricing of the carbon market. Many times, colleagues from Europe, this is not segregation, would come and present a proposal to us that we can trade in carbon assets that are held in Kaza and other parts of our African continent. But the pricing is dictated by them. And the pricing per ton of carbon can range from $15 to $100+ per ton. Am I saying 15,000? Correct me, who is in the sector here? But the range is from about 15 to 100 units. Let's use the easier term, units. And it can settle anywhere. So why should one Kaza country agree to a price of carbon, a ton of carbon, at 15 units when we can actually get 100 units? That must not continue to happen. I think we shouldn't play ignorance now. Why? We want more value to stay where the assets, carbon assets are. And they're here with Kaza. What you saw there, our carbon assets. So ministers and technical people, let's engage. So that's the second point. The third, so first is the market definition. What is a ton of carbon? 2, what is the price of a ton of carbon? 3, how do benefits trickle down to the communities that are looking after these assets so that they can stop charcoal burning because they have business opportunities for revenue? Those things. I thought I should end there and say thank you very much. As Zambia, we appreciate you giving us the graciousness to host this Kaza Heads of State Summit, and also to ask delegates to continue the work that you ought to do, and we are available to provide the support. But once the summit is over, we would like you to stay a little bit longer here. I'm sure and serious, stay a little bit longer here. Those who can stay longer, bring your families. They will walk over from here to Zimbabwe. Maybe your nephews are in Elephant's Hill Hotel there. The uncles are here in Royal Livingstone, and they are free to move around, since we've already got a Kaza uni visa between Zambia and Zimbabwe. So really, bring your families here, ask your young ones to have their honeymoons here, and we'll be very happy to host them. Thank you very much.
We can do better than that. The keynote speech at the Heads of State Summit has been delivered by the host president. Very important, yes, we have heard that more work has to be done for the Kaza area. And of course, the issue of the uni visa has come out so strong, and he has emphasized on the non-stop border post, which is very important. I like the final part, stay a little longer in this great area. Mr. President, I may be guilty myself, the Minister of Tourism, and also the Mayor of the city of Livingstone. We grew up in the city and learning at Livingstone Primary School. When teacher says, who discovered the Victoria Falls? We all wrote David Livingstone. We need to look for grade 4 books and make corrections. Allow me at this point in time to invite the reflection of the summit theme that will be done by one of the veteran broadcasters of our nation, Ambassador Frank Mutubila. Please, a big hand for him as he comes on the reflection of the theme. We can do better than that. A big hand for Ambassador Frank Mutubila.
Your Excellencies, could I invite you to take the seats up here? Your Excellencies? Yes. You may be seated, please. Your Excellency, the President of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Your Excellency, the President of Namibia, Dr. Ngolo Mbumba. Your Excellency, the President of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa. Your Honor, the Vice President of Botswana, Slumber Tsogwane, representing the President of Botswana. Honorable Minister of Tourism for Angola, Mr. Marcelo de Jesus Lopez, representing the President of Angola. My name is Frank Mutabila. It is my humble honor to anchor this important assignment. My task is very simple, simply to request you to give your reflections on the Kavango Zambezi Transfrontier conversation area. It is my distinguished honor to invite the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Marcelo de Jesus Lopez, to give your submission, sir. The Minister of Tourism, yes.
Mr. President, allow me to speak in Portuguese and address Excelência, ainda Hichilema, Presidente da República da Zâmbia, Excelência, Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa, Presidente da República do Zimbábue, Excelência Dr. Ngolo Mbumba, Presidente da República da Namíbia, Excelência Dr. Slumber, Tsogwane, Vice-Presidente da República de Botswana, em representação do Dr. Masisi, Presidente da República de Botswana, distinto Dr. Elias Magosa, Secretário Executivo da SADC.
It is Channel 1. Sorry, mister. Channel 1, please. Channel 1. Thank you. Please go ahead, Minister.
Distinto Dr. Credo Jua, Provincial Minister of Southern Province. Distinto colega Rodney
caro Presidente da Câmara de Livingstone, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. Em nome de Sua Excelência, João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, Presidente da República de Angola, quero manifestar a nossa profunda gratidão pela calorosa recepção e hospitalidade do Governo e do povo da República da Zâmbia.
So we specifically wanted to have a workshop here because we thought younger generations being trained in culinary arts will represent the future, and the biggest purpose of this week is to promote Turkish cuisine, and the best way to do it, to have a withstanding promotion, is to do it with future generations. And we wanted to come here and teach them how to prepare some dishes to add it to their knowledge so they can practice it in their future professional lives.
You know, when you are exposed to a different culture, it also improves your own cuisine. So we borrow from the French cuisine, we borrow from the English cuisine. Now we've learned how to borrow from the Turkish cuisine. Then we can improve our own dishes when we're making our fusions.
I want to explore more Turkish cuisines, and also not forgetting that I would like us to also go and demonstrate Tsogwane cuisine at Turkey one day.
Firstly, I would like to say I commend the Turkish embassy for reaching out. We actually didn't reach out to them, they reached out to us, and they were imploring us to start this journey with them towards teaching students in Botswana about Turkish cuisine, which is something that, notably we should say that there's no Turkish restaurant in Botswana. So you can imagine you're away from home and there's no taste of home for you unless if you're at the embassy or at your own house.
So Turkish cuisine is extremely rich. It's a mixture of diverse cultures and cooking cultures and also lifestyles. And it has a history that dates back to thousands of years. And in some parts of the world, Turkish cuisine is not well recognized as in the others. The main purpose of this week is to be able to promote the Turkish cuisine in parts of the world where it's not known very well, such as Botswana. And its another purpose is to just celebrate the beautiful cuisine, the beautiful history, and the richness of it.
Kgwebo e ya go dira diphologolo ke simolotse ka ngwaga wa 2018. Ke simolotse ka diphologolo diphara di le 5, ditshepe di le 5, ditsitsanaga di le 3 le dithutwa di le 3. Ka tsena le mo kgwebong ya go leka go rekisa nama ya tsone, ke dira dilo tse di tshwanang le biltong, ke rekisa nama ya seswa sa phologolo, ke rekisa le one nama yone ka bo yone tota e leng gore e tswa mo phologolong. Ke simolotse ka batho ba ka nna 5, mo bogompienong yana ke se na le batho ba ka nna 20 ba e leng gore kgwebo e ya me e setse ba hirile. Mananeo a mante a molemo a puso a rona e le kang gore ya dire a batho e re go tsana mo gone ba simololle ba rutiwa pele ka gore le nna go simololle mo ga memo ke ne ka ya go ba wildlife ba mpontsha gore o ka simololla jana wa simololla hali phologolo tare ke phologolo ke so sa monageng, mme go na le nako e leng gore ga go ta dikgwetho tsa luba a bo itse gore go na le ha e leng gore o di ha dijo teng o di lemetse.
I'm a hunter for many years since I was a kid. Me ile ha ke ntse ke tsoma ke tswa go tsoma ke bona batho ba go kopana mme ke bona tota me na me le opportunity ya gore ka ba rekisetse. We bone it and then package it and put it in the built and dry machine. It takes about 24 hours to dry, and then from there we shred it and package it into very small bags, which then we then sell to. The market for game biltong is vast. It's actually untapped.
Pula jaaka selebana ba bolela gore go lubwa ga gona pula go na ga nna hela yalo me gone ha ene le gore go ga se ka ga nna le ditego tsa di-suppliera tsa dipeo jalo jalo gongwe ko ke le ra tshwara dipula tsa nta
gore mo tshimoe ke lemile dinawa tota tse e leng gore gantsinyana ke rata go specialisa ka tsone ke lema ditou le magapu le marotse be ke lema mmidi o sa le o nkganeditse mme ke ne ke o bona le nna le ga ke o lemile be ke re ao ga ke na go tswelela gope be nna lebolebo ke kgonne go bona sengwe ke ne ke tshogile ke re a mme peo ngwe go tang ke tsa ke heletse ke e bona
gompieno ke lemile 72 hectares ya mabele a Mr. Pasta. Ke mabele a Mr. Pasta. Ha ke a lebile a siame ka gore ha re leng teng a sale a bone yone pula ya ha na mela e be le yone pula ya bohelo kgetsinyana tse pedi tse tharo tsone ke ta di bona compared to ha ne le gore ne ke jadile mmidi ka ke lebelele le gore ha pula e le teng le na le thobogele e ntsi hela thata ebile ngwe gono kana ga gona mabele jaaka ke tebo ke a bone a bona ke a bone ke temane sentse re ke a somarele ke bone gore ke o bona theko e botoka mo go ona
a re hela ka nako ya pula ena e ka tswa bo September bo October yana hela ga e rothisa go bona gore ye nka lema o bo lema jaanong ba le bantsi ba le mirare re tshaba